Ever gotten so excited about an idea you, like, jumped in head first, built the whole thing out, only to realize later nobody really needed it?
Happens all the time.
Yeah, including myself sometimes. And learning about this minimum viable product, the MVP, definitely would have saved me some headaches.
You know what's fascinating is you're not alone.
Hmm.
McKinsey found that something like half of all product launches completely miss the mark. It's almost like aiming blindfolded at that point.
Wow.
Yeah. So today we're diving deep into this MVP framework, figuring out what it is, how it works, and how it can prevent you from becoming another statistic.
Okay, so 50% failure rate. That's almost like playing the lottery with your product launch. Like, what are we missing here? What leads to so many flops?
Well, I think one major culprit is this disconnect between what companies think users want
Yeah,
and what they actually need.
right.
The MGP framework really tackles this head on by emphasizing validation, like getting your product in front of users fast.
So getting real feedback early on.
Exactly.
Before you've sunk in, tons of time and resources into something that might totally flop.
Yeah.
But how minimum are we talking? Don't you need a somewhat, polished, like put together product to even get people interested?
Right. And that's where that viable part comes in, right?
Right.
So it's not about launching some like half-baked product, but it's about this strategically stripped down version
Okay.
that nails the core value proposition. Think of it as like the heart and lungs of your product,
Okay.
enough to keep it alive
Got it.
while you're gathering that feedback
Okay.
to build something bigger.
So we're not talking about like duct tape and string solutions here.
Right.
We still need, it needs to be quality.
Absolutely. Minimum should never mean shoddy.
Right.
It's about really prioritizing those make-or-break features that solve that core problem for your users.
Okay, so when is this MVP framework like the most valuable? Our source material uses the example of a new rideshare app launching in a competitive market.
Oh, perfect example. So imagine trying to compete with like an Uber or a Lyft. You could spend months, years even,
Wow.
building out this like feature-rich app with loyalty programs and in-app games and all this stuff.
Only to realize people just want a reliable ride, a clear price, and maybe a friendly driver who doesn't mind if you sing along to the radio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The MVP approach is you focus on those core needs first. Get the booking, the routing, the payment. Get that rock solid.
Bar.
That's your foundation.
So how do we build this minimum yet viable product? Like, what are the essential building blocks?
Our guide breaks it down into 4 key components.
Okay.
First up, you got to have those core features, those non-negotiables, the stuff that addresses the user's most pressing pain point.
Makes sense.
For our rideshare app, that's that seamless experience of requesting a ride, knowing when to expect it, all at a transparent price.
No hidden fees, please. Got to keep those riders happy. What's next?
All right, so next we need a user experience, UX, that doesn't make people chuck their phone out the window.
Right.
It's got to be intuitive, maybe even a little bit enjoyable.
Yeah, but we don't want to get bogged down in optimizing every little pixel at this stage.
Exactly. It's got to be good enough to provide a smooth experience, but not so polished that you're afraid to make changes based on what people tell you.
Right, so this feedback loop feels crucial. Like, we need to know what's working, what's falling flat. How do we actually use this data?
So this is where feedback loops and analytics become your secret weapon. You're actively monitoring how users interact with your app. What features are they using? What are they ignoring? Are they getting stuck anywhere?
Are they opening the app and then just immediately closing it?
Yeah, like are they rage quitting after one try?
Right.
All really important.
I imagine with a rideshare app, those wait times would be a big one.
For sure.
Like, are drivers taking too long? Are there enough drivers in, like, a specific neighborhood in Minneapolis?
You got it. This real-world data tells you what to prioritize in those early iterations. Maybe that fancy playlist integration can wait while you focus on optimizing the driver matching algorithm.
Right, so don't get distracted by the shiny objects when the core experience needs some refining.
Exactly.
Okay, last building block.
Reliability and stability.
Of course.
Even in its minimalist form, it's got to work consistently. Imagine launching a rideshare app and the payment system crashes every other ride.
Yeah, talk about a quick way to kill your user base.
Not a good look.
Not good. So we've got the blueprints for a solid MVP. How do we actually go from, idea to reality?
Well, our guide lays out a 5-step implementation process.
5 steps.
Step 1, pinpoint those customer pain points.
Okay.
We're going back to the rideshare example. Through market research and ideally talking to potential users, You uncover a demand for, let's say, a more transparent and efficient service, particularly in a city like Minneapolis with, challenging winters.
Right, reliable rides are crucial when it's 20 below and snowing sideways. So you're listening to what people need, you're identifying those patterns. Then what? Okay, so we've gathered these insights. Minnesotans braving the polar vortex need those reliable rides. Now we move on to step 2, building that blueprint. This is the product requirements document, the PRD.
Yeah, the PRD.
These things-
Sounds a little intense.
It sounds scarier than it is. It's really, just think of it as your MVP's North Star.
Okay.
It's going to guide every decision from here on out. It captures everything, who you're targeting, the core features, even potential roadblocks.
Okay.
So in our rideshare scenario, this document would emphasize those must-haves: the real-time ride tracking, the upfront pricing, that laser focus on Minneapolis and those underserved neighborhoods.
Okay, no more getting lost in a blizzard of vague promises. I'm starting to see why this framework is appealing. It's about laser focus.
Yeah.
But like a PRD it's just a document, right?
Right.
How do we go from that to, like lines of code, a functioning app? So that's where step 3 comes in, which is all about building your roadmap.
Okay.
And this is outlining every sprint, these short focused development cycles needed to bring that MVP to life.
Okay, quick detour. What exactly is a sprint in this context? I'm picturing developers racing each other through, like, an obstacle course.
Not quite. So in agile development, sprints are like mini projects
Okay.
within the larger MVP.
Okay.
They typically last a week or 2.
Got it.
And the goal is to have a working, testable version
Okay.
of a specific feature by the end of each sprint.
So it's like breaking down these like daunting development tasks
Yeah.
into manageable chunks.
You got it.
So for our rideshare app, like the first sprint might be nailing that real-time ride tracking feature, and then a later sprint focuses on integrating like Apple Pay or something.
Exactly. And it's all about prioritizing those make or break features
Okay.
and then iterating based on that feedback. Which brings us to really the most crucial step.
This is where we find out if this thing holds up in the real world, bro.
Yeah, no more hypotheticals.
Yeah, showtime.
Exactly. Step 4 is all about getting it in front of real users and seeing what they do, how they interact with it.
So how do you actually measure success with this, like beyond downloads? Because if I'm launching this rideshare app, what data am I looking at?
Yeah, downloads are just the starting line.
Right.
What you really want is that deep engagement. Are people completing rides? Are they coming back and using the app for multiple trips?
And for a service like this, wouldn't like word of mouth be huge?
Oh, huge.
Like are people actually telling their friends, "Hey, this new app is reliable even in a snowstorm?"
It's gold. So it's about tracking those key performance indicators, those KPIs.
Okay, KPIs. Very official. Can we for those of us who aren't like data wizards, can we break that down a little bit?
Think of KPIs like your MVP's vital signs.
Okay.
They tell you if your product is thriving or if it's like on life support.
Right.
So for our rideshare app, we'd want to look at average wait times, user retention, are people coming back for more?
Right.
Even the percentage of rides happening during like peak hours. Right?
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
is this something people are relying on when they absolutely need it?
So you're looking for those like aha moments in the data,
Yeah.
like proof that you're solving the problem that you set out to solve. But what about the flip side? What happens if the feedback isn't so glowing, you know?
What this is where a culture that embraces like iterative learning is essential.
Okay.
Even with the most rigorous planning, you're going to hit bumps in the road.
Right.
The key is to not view those as failures, but as opportunities to adjust.
I love that. You're allowed to like tweak, adjust, completely revamp based on what you learn. So the data's coming in, we're iterating, maybe tweaking the pricing for our rideshare app, adding a new safety feature because riders were asking for it.
Right.
How do we make sure these changes don't throw the whole company into chaos?
That's where this often overlooked but absolutely vital concept of change management comes in.
Okay.
We can't just throw this new product out there and expect everyone to just like instantly adapt. Our source material talks about the 5 Ds of change management.
The 5 Ds. Okay, break that down.
Well, it all starts with like identifying those champions within your organization,
Okay.
the people who really get it,
Right.
who can really evangelize this new way of working.
Mm-hmm.
These are your designates.
Your MVP cheer squad. I like it.
Exactly. They're going to be really instrumental in determining how you gather feedback,
Yeah.
how you track success of these new processes.
So, like, what metrics actually matter? Who's crunching those numbers?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And then, crucially, who's making those tough decisions? Because not every tweak is going to be a home run.
right. Sometimes you have to go back to the drawing board.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Having a very clear decision-making process based on data, not ego, is essential. That's part of the decide phase. And of course, we need to develop. And it's not just about the product, right? But it's also the systems, the incentives. You're rewarding those who really embrace this mindset.
So you're not just telling people to change, you're rewarding them when they do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what about that final D, that decrease?
Yeah, that one sounds a little ominous, I'll be honest.
Think of it as proactive problem solving. So what are the potential roadblocks? How can we mitigate those risks?
Okay, I like that.
You're creating an environment where people feel safe, experimenting, learning, occasionally stumbling.
Right, because that's how we learn, right?
Exactly.
It's like that old saying, like, fail fast, fail often, but, fail forward.
There you go.
But change can be tough. I mean, how do we get everyone on board with this?
Well, it really comes down to clear communication.
Okay.
Our source material really stresses the OCYMM approach.
The what?
YOKM. What's in it for me?
Oh, okay, right. Like, yeah.
Because you got to tailor that message. Why should the marketing team care about a slightly buggy feature in the initial release?
Right.
Well, because it provides them with really valuable insights
Right.
into what resonates with users.
Right.
And that helps them refine their messaging, target the right audience.
And what about like the customer support team? I mean, they're on the front lines. They're hearing those complaints.
They are. So this framework actually empowers them to provide feedback
Okay.
that directly shapes how the product evolves so those issues don't keep cropping up again and again.
And hopefully makes their lives a little bit easier.
Exactly. It's about showing how everyone's role is contributing to that bigger picture of a product that people love. And of course, leadership, they have to walk the walk.
Right. They can't just talk the talk, right?
Exactly.
Hmm.
When they embrace this iterative approach, it trickles down.
So it's not just about the product, it's about building that culture, a culture of curiosity, experimentation.
100%.
But let's be real. Even with the best laid plans, sometimes your MVP.I bombs.
It happens.
What happens then?
Well, that's the beauty of this framework, really. It's not about avoiding failure. It's about embracing those learnings, course correcting. Think about Dropbox, right? They started with like a 3-minute video
Yeah.
demonstrating the technology.
Mm-hmm.
No fancy features, just a peek into the future of file sharing, really.
And that's how they got their start.
75,000 signups from that video alone.
Wow. Talk about a minimalist approach.
Exactly. They validated the hypothesis, built buzz, and gathered feedback before diving into, the heavy development. Patience is key.
So what I'm hearing is this whole MVP thing, it's not just about building a product, it's about cultivating a mindset, right?
Yes.
A culture of curiosity, experimentation, and that laser focus on actually giving your users what they need.
And that, my friend, is how you transform those, brilliant ideas
Yeah.
into those products that people not only want, they need.
It's been such an insightful dive into the world of MVPs. We've covered the what, the why, the how, but as you embark on your own product development journey, remember this. The MVP framework, it's not just a set of tools, it's a mindset, a commitment to constantly learning, and honestly a celebration that sometimes the most minimal approach can lead to those remarkable results.